Hello everyone. So let's begin with our third lecture in this course. So in our last lecture, we began with the very basic MOS transistor characteristics and the very basic MOS transistor characteristics basically indicate that we are not considering the channel length modulation. As a consequence, we saw that the soft saturation and the deep saturation region are kind of invariant, essentially meaning that it is perfectly flat. Okay, we are going to look into the significance of this probably, within a couple of lectures from now. Then, what we did in our previous class, we figured out the various terminal potentials across the transistor, and from there, we established that when we are changing the input bias, input voltage which is applied at the gate terminal of this P MOSFET as well as an N MOSFET, what we have seen is that in case of an N MOSFET, we will usually connect the source terminal to the lowest possible potential in the circuit. So essentially meaning that the source is connected to the ground terminal, whereas in the case of the PMOS, okay, the source is connected with the highest possible potential in the circuit, so that is the VDD. Okay, that was the very basic thing which we discussed in our previous class. All right, so once we have understood that, we figured it out that if we are increasing the input voltage Vi, okay, the NFET, the N MOSFET will turn on only after Vi reaches VTN, that is as long as Vi is greater than VTN, the way I have shown over here. Similarly, for the P MOSFET will remain switched on as long as the Vi is between 0 to VDD minus VTP. So within this range of VDD minus VTP to VDD, it is essentially going to be in the subthreshold region. Okay, we have seen that. So our conclusion was between VTN, when the Vi, the input voltage is between VTN and VDD minus VTP, both the transistors are switched on. Okay, so that means switched on means there will be current flowing through the transistors. Okay, now we will investigate even further, because what we have understood is that as long as Vi is less than VTN and Vi is greater than VDD minus VTP, the only current which will be flowing through the circuit are the leakage current. Okay, so that will essentially constitute our leakage power or the static power dissipation, which we will see as we go along in this course. However, the main concern, the main power consumption, so to speak, will occur when both the transistors are switched on. That is the region, mathematical expression for that region is essentially something which I have put within the box region over here. So this is, we can essentially call it as the transition region when the CMOS logic is doing a transition or doing a switching between 0 and VDD values. Okay, excellent. So that's where we finished off in the last class. Then the static CMOS inverter. First of all, why are we putting so much of importance of the inverter? Because as you can understand that inverter is the simplest CMOS circuit, digital CMOS circuit you can think of, right? So why are we emphasizing so much about the static CMOS inverter? Based on your VLSI design course, I would want you to answer. Can you switch on your microphone and tell me why are we putting so much effort to study the static CMOS inverter?
Like they'll be like alternatingly turning off. Both will not be on.
Okay, symmetric switching you want to say? So that is symmetric switching, na?
Yes, yes. And also like there'll be low resistance path to the VD and ground.
Well, in that case, I can essentially take a 2-input NAND gate and essentially I'll size them up together in such a manner that the 2-input NAND gate will actually behave, it might behave faster than the inverter also. Why is this special stress on inverter?
So inverter having logical effort one, sir, very less when compared to any
Excellent.
circuit.
But here also is something which I will fundamentally ask a question. The logical effort of one Remember, the logical effort concept was defined again for a static CMOS inverter,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So that is the reason why we are mentioning that the logical effort of a static CMOS inverter is 1. Okay, so if I come up with a new concept like let us say bits effort, not logical effort, say bits effort, I will define a new quantity. The bits effort I will define with respect to say 3 input NAND gate. Okay, I can do that because logical effort is something which we engineers have developed. So my fundamental question is like, why is static CMOS inverter the reference point for defining logical effort? Okay, you are saying logical effort of inverter is 1, which is absolutely correct. But why is static in CMOS inverter as is the reference point for calculating logical effort? And as a consequence, it will be 1, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So why is it? For example, we say that let us say the specific gravity of water is 1. Obviously, it will be because specific gravity is defined as a ratio of the density with respect to the density of water at room temperature. So specific gravity of water will always be 1. है ना? So now my question is, why is static CMOS inverter the standard?
Full rail to rail swing.
That is full rail to rail swing is definitely going to happen for any static CMOS technology. Even transmission gate will have full rail to rail swing. Okay. Whenever the answer to the question is, whenever we are talking about any, uh, let us say, any combinational circuit, please note, I'm speaking about a simple combinational circuit. I'm not speaking about the dynamic ones. Okay? Only combinational circuit. So if you are combinational circuit in the sense like a logic circuit, okay, some Boolean function you want to implement, which does not involve any clock or any reset or any enable line. Okay, that kind of combinational circuit. So if you are just simply implementing a Boolean function, okay, so that kind of circuit can always be represented as a static CMOS inverter with the help of a proper sizing. And that is called the equivalent inverter. Have you heard the term in VLSI design? Equivalent inverter.
Sir, kindly repeat, sir.
Huh. So, for example, if you have, let's say, little bit more complicated circuit is 2 input NAND gate, let us say. The 2 input NAND gate can be represented as its equivalent static CMOS inverter. This equivalent inverter is simply going to vary in terms of the sizing of the transistors. That's it. Okay. So, what is the advantage of it? So, if we have a, let us say, this. Okay. Okay, this is a simple 2 input NAND gate. Now, I can make this equivalent to this static CMOS inverter with the only variation of the sizing of the transistors. So again, your question will be, if I'm able to make a let us say a more complicated circuit into its equivalent static CMOS inverter, then what is the advantage? Okay, the in the standard static CMOS inverter, it will be twice W, and this will be W. We all know that, right? So if I'm converting this NAND gate into this, it is going to be, let us say, PW, and this will be QW. Okay, so all I have done is I have changed the sizing of the PMOS and the NMOS, and what are we getting out of it? We are able to check the worst case scenario for the original circuit. Let me explain this. This is very, very interesting. So, did you get the concept which I'm trying to put in over here? Why do we require static CMOS inverter as the reference point for all our digital circuits? So this concept is very important. Anybody can ask you. I will ask you if you are coming for an interview. Okay, so let's look at this. you have got very complicated circuit. I do not know what is there. A very, very complicated circuit. Somehow, if I'm able to convert it into something like this, okay, very simple. So let us say this is an M input, this is M input NAND gate, let us say. If I convert it like this, what is the significance of it? This inverter switching, as one of you have rightly said, that it is going to have a rail to rail swing. Perfect. Of course, this is also going to have rail to rail, by the way, because this is also static CMOS, right? So static CMOS and transmission gate logic will always have rail to rail. Okay, so that is not the correct answer. So remember, this will always be giving you rail to rail, of course, but at the same time, it is also going to behave like a perfect static CMOS robust circuit and all that. However, notice, when will this NAND gate go from, let us say, 1 to 0? Can anybody tell me? For what set of inputs?
When pull down path is conducting, like all
Uh,
are one.
Exactly. That means when all of the inputs are 1. Okay. Whereas in this case, when is this going to go from 1 to 0? When this is 1. So that means, just imagine if it is an M input NAND gate, M can be 10,000 also. If it is conducting, the output is switching from 1 to 0, it means that all the inputs are transitioning together. Okay, think about the power consumption over here. Get it? So that means when suddenly all the transistors are switching on, okay, the power consumption will be the maximum. The delays will be the maximum because you are switching all the transistors together. This scenario is captured in the equivalent inverter because you are having only one input. Okay, all you have done is, suppose there are M transistors. Okay, so you are going to have M. I'm not mentioning it here. What will be the value? We will calculate it later. This will be P and Q, let us say. So the transistor width is much, much larger. Okay, now this P factor, if you are making the transistor as if it is much larger, the N MOSFET is P times larger, the P MOSFET is Q times larger. Okay, but what you are actually capturing now, so if this equivalent transistor makes a transition, if this equivalent inverter makes a transition from 1 to 0, it is representing that all the transistors are switching simultaneously in the original circuit. That means this equivalent inverter represents the worst case scenario. Okay, this is very, very important. So if you are an IC designer, your objective will be to optimize on the static CMOS inverter. That means you are essentially improving the worst case scenario for this circuit. Now, why is it worst case scenario? Suppose I want to switch this. When will this M input NAND gate go from 0 to 1? When any one of these M inputs is becoming 0. है ना? सिर्फ एक ही काफी है. The moment you put one of you, basically you switch off this line, gone. Immediately the output will swing from 0 to 1. So the worst case scenario is captured only in the static CMOS inverter, equivalent static CMOS inverter. Got it? Huh? So that means this equivalent inverter represents the worst case scenario. So that means if you can minimize the worst case scenario duration, let us say the time constant you are minimizing for this transistor, that means when all the transistors are switching simultaneously, you are going to have the least delay. Yes or no? So if you can essentially size this this equivalent inverter in such a way that it is using up the least power, that means when all the transistors are switching together, in case of the more complicated circuit, original one, it is going to consume the least power. Got it? Huh? So logical effort, now comes the question, now comes the answer to the question that why is a static CMOS inverter the basis or the reference for logical effort calculations? Because if you are considering the worst case scenario of the circuit, then what is the situation here? You are going to look at the capacitance seen at the input of the worst case scenario, that is the equivalent inverter, or from the input of this. So what is the capacitance seen? Cg. How much will this be? This is Q and P, right? It will become 2Q plus P into W LCox. Okay. Now, what is the condition for a perfect static CMOS inverter? Simply 2 plus 1 WLCox. Correct. So we will cancel this. Okay. So what will we get here? 2Q plus P divided by 3. We will look into logical effort. This is for the static inverter. This is your logical effort G. We will look into logical effort in much details later on. So what we understand is that we are always making the reference with respect to a simple static CMOS inverter and the equivalent static CMOS inverter. The equivalent static CMOS inverter is coming from the original circuit. Why are we doing the equivalent static CMOS inverter? That will take care of the worst case scenario. Okay?
Sir, but this statement of yours, is it satisfied for the complex circuit which is made with transmission gate or like pseudo NMOS or whatever, other than static CMOS?
Actually, we will see the technique for that also. Okay. In our course, we are going to look into logical effort calculation for dynamic circuits also. Typical example, our transmission gate. For
Sir,
example,
not logical effort statements, or like equivalent, like
yeah.
raising the entire
We can do it. The only problem is if we are having some reset, then it is not captured over here. Reset में क्या होता है? It like you are going to have another one which is basically an enable line or RST line. RST means reset line. In those cases, we are going to consider that when it is switched on, let us say in this case, that means it will be reset only when, let us say it is reset bar line. Okay. So when it is switched on, then what will happen? This is always working. In that case, we are not going to consider this transistor as part of this circuit. Okay, so we are going to do the sizing irrespective of this one because it is always going to remain on. So only exception is the reset. For example, in the clocked circuits, domino logic, for example. Okay, what do? There will be one pre-charge state, right? So pre-charge ke liye, we are not going to bother about this because our actual logical effort makes sense during the evaluate phase, not the pre-charge phase. Okay, so that now what I'm suggesting is that in case of clock, we are going to clocked circuits, let us say dynamic circuits, we are going to consider only the evaluate phase where the clock is 1. Basically, this is always shorted. In the case of restart, we are going to take care of that. But other than that, if it is like transmission gate, pass transistor logic, all of them can be converted into equivalent inverter. Okay. What will change if it is a static CMOS configuration? It is the resistance path we are going to consider. If it is a transmission gate configuration, it is the capacitance which we are going to consider. This W into LCox, right? So W and L will vary. In one case, L will vary, other case W will vary. We will look into that as we go along. Okay.
Sir,
yeah.
Will this abstraction will be the same if the circuit consists of intrinsic capacitances and
Intrinsic, no, it will be the same only. Of course. As I'm telling you, for example, intrinsic capacitance meaning it will be something like the parasitics and all that, right? You are probably referring to it, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now let us consider this situation. Okay. What is the worst case scenario, as I'm telling you, is that when all of them are switched on. So the intrinsic capacitances will be here. One, two. Huh. You will learn something called charge sharing. Charge sharing was taught in VLSI design, I think, right? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. So if it
Yes,
is a
sir.
charge sharing, you know. So what will happen? These intrinsic capacitances, these are the node capacitances inside. So they will basically start behaving like a parasitic. Now, in the worst case scenario, what will happen when you are switching on all of them? Okay, then basically all these capacitances are gone. Okay, so the charge sharing issue is not there. Okay, so this is the easiest way that you are going to have a short. Okay, now when you are having a situation, so this that is basically 1 to 0 will be much easier. Now whether you are switching on over here, what will happen? There will be all these capacitances will not be switched on later on. है ना? Now the situation is like this. Now you have converted 0 over here. So this is switched off. So that means if the logic is 1, what will happen? It will not be able to drain to the ground because the first transistor itself is switched off. Okay. Now in the reverse way, let us say the last transistor gets switched off. Then the logic 1 is going to go to 0 through each of these parasitics 1. Correct? So in this case, static CMOS inverter, we are not considering this 1 1 1 0. We are considering all of them 0 or all of them 1. So that means in static CMOS inverter kind of, equivalent inverter concept, what we are trying to do is that the input will switch from either 0 or 1 and vice versa. This is corresponding to all zeros to all ones and vice versa. Okay. So the intermediate conditions like what is the drainage from the parasitics and all that is not captured over here. We are going to look into the case when all the transistors are switching on from 0 to 1, all the transistors switching on from 1 to 0. Okay, so the amount of power consumption will be maximum. So basically, suppose it is a, let us say, 64-bit computer, like all of your laptops are 64-bit. So all 64 bits are there. Static CMOS inverter, the equivalent one, simply implies that this will switch to all ones simultaneously and vice versa. That means you are going to encounter the maximum switching possible inside the circuit. Got it? So if that happens, it means that you are essentially doing the calculations, doing the IC design for the worst situation where the maximum power consumption will happen. Okay, the maximum switching possible will happen. And we are going to calculate the logical effort and all the timing analysis for the equivalent inverter. Got it, everyone? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What Ashok was probably asking, I think it was Ashok. So what he was trying to tell is that suppose I am not switching this one, this remains one only. Then the switching will be not the case. So it is something similar to this. This remains 1 and 1. What does it imply? It is not the worst case scenario. Of course, there will be parasitics, but it's not the worst case scenario.
So
The worst.
every time this is not the worst case, right, sir? Because this is NAND, all ones is the worst case. But
I am just showing an example.
yes,
Okay.
sir.
So basically, when it is some other circuit, XOR circuit, any circuit, multiplexer circuit, whatever, full adder circuit, anything. Now, what is the thing is that whenever we are making an equivalent inverter, okay, the bottom line is we are sort of combining all the inputs into a single one. So whenever we are transitioning between 0 to 1 at the input, it is corresponding to all the inputs of the uh, multiplexer or whichever complicated circuit, whichever combination circuit you think of, all the inputs of the combination circuit are simultaneously switching between 0 and 1. Okay, irrespective of what that combinational circuit is. All right. In fact, that is the very basis of logical effort. Logical effort, we say that it is the ratio of the input capacitance seen at the input of uh, a circuit to that of a static CMOS inverter. Input of the circuit, there will be so many input of the circuit, right? How do you make a ratio in that case? Isn't it? Suppose I tell you what is the logical effort of a NAND gate. Simple 2-input NAND gate. You will be having 2 inputs, right? What is the logical effort seen by an input of a multiplexer? There will be so many inputs of multiplexers. It's actually the question about the equivalent inverter. We will look into logical effort in much details later. Okay, so whatever we are going to learn right now about the static CMOS inverter, it's not just about static CMOS inverter. No, it's actually a question about the equivalent. It's also a study about the equivalent inverter also. So at the very beginning of any VLSI design course, we are essentially teaching or learning the static CMOS inverter very, very thoroughly, because later on when we are going into more complicated circuits, we are eventually going to convert it into its equivalent inverter and try to do the analysis of power and the delays. If you will notice the propagation delay, okay, then switching delays, all of these were covered in VLSI design. I'm sure it was done. In this course also, we will be doing it in much more depth. So all those delays, propagation delays, those are all essentially defined for inverter. Yes or no? Recall, we never try to find out the propagation delay of any complicated circuit. So whenever we are speaking about that, even the formula of the propagation delay itself was defined for the static CMOS inverter. But it never bothered, but we never asked that static CMOS inverter is just one simplest circuit in digital VLSI. So why are we bothering so much about the static CMOS inverter? Because even the most complicated ones can be converted into an equivalent inverter, and the analysis goes on accordingly. Got it? Awesome. Okay, now this is the static CMOS inverter. Everybody knows. This is the. By the way, I have written DC transfer characteristics. Why is it? In analog IC design, we say about DC and AC, right? Here, why is it DC transfer characteristics? Because we have not included any capacitance component over here. So we are not able to capture anything related to high frequency. Simple. Okay. So in the static CMOS inverter circuit over here, notice that the load is also missing. How will be the load actually? I should have kept the load something like this, right? And as Ashok was telling, he is perfectly right. For example, I'm supposed to have this body as grounded and this should be grounded. So essentially, you are supposed to have the parasitics like this also, right? And here, I mean, we are going to study the parasitics later on as well, of course. Without that, your VLSI design is no meaning. So those so many parasitic capacitances should be there, which we have ignored. Okay, so that means we have ignored all the parasitics until now. And even the load is missing. This will be the load capacitance, right? That is also missing here. So the question is, again, one intelligence question from circuit theory. If the load is missing, then what is the effective CL?
So capacitance of PMOS plus NMOS.
I have not added that, right? By the way, capacitance of PMOS and NMOS, there are so many capacitors. I drew 4.
This one's a common junction, like this is for drain, this is for source.
Yeah.
That equivalent capacitance would be there, but
But here I have not mentioned, no? It's not there. So what is the exact value of CL if it is not mentioned? It's an open circuit basically.
infinity, sir.
Okay. Everybody, infinity? Okay, let's see. This is a simple RC net. This is a simple resistive load. Sorry, it may not be visible. Yeah. So this is a very simple resistive loaded CS amplifier. Okay. If we do not put this resistance, RL is not there, then it simply means that this is open circuit. Open circuit means RL is equal to infinity. Makes sense? So what is our actual VO? VO will be given by GM into, let us call it RD. So it will become RD parallel RL. Okay, this RL part, okay, will come in parallel. Why? I will explain that later. Why is VDD called that AC ground? I hope you know this because this is some basic fundamentals which you should have studied in the BTech itself. Okay, but anyways, I'll go through it in some extra class sometime. This is not part of this course anyway. So now it will be RD parallel RL. So if RL is not there, that means I'm not putting any load resistance. So that means if RL is infinity, then this is a parallel combination. The parallel will always be the lowest of the two resistances, right? So if RL is infinity, it will simply become GM into RD. Correct. Now, in this case, when I'm putting a P MOSFET over here, it is simply similar to this RD itself. The only thing is you are removing the passive resistance RD, okay, and you are converting it into an active resistance in the form of the P MOSFET. Simple, right? So what is the value of RD now? So this static CMOS inverter is nothing more than an active loaded CS amplifier. Okay, this is one of the best amplifier in the analog also. Many people don't realize this. People will always think that this is only for digital. No, no, no. This gain is also the maximum in this configuration. You will never get such beautiful, such high gain if you are using a resistance over here. I'll explain that later. That should be explained in the analog IC design course. Anyway, so here, what will be the RD if you are replacing it by an active transistor or active load? This is basically an active load. क्या होगा RD?
RO.
RO2, exactly. Very good. Thank you. RO2, the on resistance of the transistor M2. Very nice. Now, what will be the RC network? यहाँ पर तो कोई capacitance है ही नहीं. So it is going to be an ideal one. Okay. So now we are essentially adding a capacitor. Instead of the RL, it was an RL over here. No? We are putting a capacitor. What is the resistance offered by the capacitance? Yes or no? You can also put it as SCL. This is very basic electrical sciences. Okay. Now, one of you said that this RL, if this RL is not there, then it is open circuit, means this is equal to infinity, irrespective of the frequency, or that is अगर ये j omega है, irrespective of this omega, that is the frequency, it is always going to be infinity, because you have not put any resistance here, like this circuit. No load is missing. Then can anybody tell me what is the value of CL?
Zero.
Exactly. Very good. So that means what we have learned today is a very, very fundamental concept. If it is a resistive load, see, I am not following the typical bookish knowledge over here, but these are the concepts which will help you to understand. So that means if you have a resistance, so you can note it down. I am not writing it here. So if you have a resistive load, then load missing means RL equal to infinity. If it is a capacitive load, then CL missing is infinity, is zero. Okay, load missing is zero. ठीक है, everybody? Huh? Now, if you want to find out, the concept is clear. Now let us find out, if the load was here, what was the gain of this? AV will be equal to minus GM into RD parallel RL. है ना? Now, if RL tends to infinity, this was equal to simply minus GM into RD. In this case, RD is RO2. This is eventually called the AV naught. That means intrinsic gain of this active loaded CS amplifier. Okay. Now, this is from the analog perspective. If you want to use this inverter as an amplifier, CS amplifier, this is from the analog perspective. From the digital perspective, you are not going to bother about the load, resistive load. We will be bothered about the CL. Okay. Now, one of you said that the capacitance seen at the output node will be equal to the capacitances given by the parasitics here. Yes or no? Somebody said. Yeah, I don't know your names, but one of you.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So now what will happen? Here you are having what? C, D, B1. This will be C, D, B2. We will look into parasitics later. Okay. So what will be the net effective output? C out will be equal to CL. Notice all these capacitances are in parallel. Resistance kya tha? Resistance were in parallel. So if the capacitances are in parallel, they will simply add up. Yes or no? Huh? Now, what we have said is that if the load is missing, CL is equal to 0. So you will be having only the parasitic component. Everyone getting me, right? This is very interesting. So that means if you are not putting any load in a digital IC, the net output capacitance seen is only due to the parasitic capacitance or intrinsic capacitance, as Ashok mentioned. Got it? Whereas this is for the digital approach. The same circuit when you are operating as a digital IC. For the same circuit when you are operating as an analog IC, you are going to put a resistive load. In that case, what will happen? Only the intrinsic resistance offered by the load transistor, that is RO2, will come into the picture because RL equal to infinity. Got it? Excellent. So we have learned many new concepts today, right? Okay, now we are going to look into it in a very, very new perspective now. Just stay with me. So we have understood that when the load is missing, then CL equal to 0 and RL equal to infinity. I'll write both over here. However, RL will be important for analog IC design. CL will be important for digital IC design. Okay? Very good. So this part is clear. That means on the x-axis we are having 0 to Vi, on the y-axis we are having 0 to Vo. Okay, so when Vi is less than Vtn, सबको पता है, the transition, for example, I have shown that the transition occurs only between the range Vtn to VDD minus VTP over here. So this is the region where you are going to see the transition हो रहा. Okay, before that, so as long as this Vi is less than Vtn, only leakages are there. After VDD minus VTP, only leakages are there. When PFET is subthreshold and between 0 to Vtn, NFET is subthreshold. इसके बीच में transition हो रहा है. Okay, as I've written, static leakages occur and this. That part is basically the consequence of the previous one. Now we are going to look into it on a next level. Very good. When is the NFET in saturation? The NFET will be in saturation when VDS, this voltage, VDSN is greater than VOVN. Okay, I think it is there up. Yeah, you can see this. I know. So if that is so, what is the situation here? So VDSN is greater than VOVN equal to VGSN minus VTN. यहाँ से what is this the VDSN? क्या है? VDSN from here to here. So VDSN will be equal to VO. Correct? Then what is the VGSN? From here to here. That is equal to Vi. Okay, minus Vtn. So now what is the equation of Vo equal to Vi minus Vtn? Okay, what I shall do is I have drawn over here a line which is Vo equal to Vi. Okay, this line, as you can see. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy paste this one. Now notice that if Vo equal to Vi minus Vtn line, what is the x-intercept of this line? When Vo is equal to 0, Vi is equal to how much?
Vtn.
Vtn. So that means I'll simply shift this to here. Okay, I'll put some other color here. Yeah. So what is this line? This is Vo is equal to Vi minus Vtn line. Makes sense? Okay. Now notice that Vo is greater than Vi minus Vtn. Okay. Now at any instance, let us say at this point, okay, you will notice that everything which is higher up over here, above this Vo equal to Vi minus Vtn, everything is Vo greater than Vi minus Vtn. Yes or no? So I can draw like this. Everything above this Vo equal to Vi minus Vtn is Vo greater than Vi minus Vtn. It's geometry. Everybody with me? Coordinate geometry. Yes or no? Any point which is above this Vo equal to Vi minus Vtn line means NFET is what? Saturated. That is what I have shown here. Remember, subthreshold region is the ideal saturation. I explained that to the PMMD course students last time. We are going to study that also in this course. It will be a revision for PMMD, new thing probably for embedded systems. Subthreshold is the best possible saturation you can think of. Okay, so that is the reason why subthreshold NFET is subthreshold, means it is also in saturation. The only thing is the current, the saturation current is very low. That's it. So if somebody says it is cut off means there is no current, this is wrong. The current is actually saturated. So if you are looking for low power but the best saturation device, or the circuit, you should actually do it in subthreshold design anyway. So this is subthreshold is also actually saturation, and this entire part above this point, okay, is, that means your NFET is in saturation. Okay, very good. Okay, let it be there. Then let us look into the PFET part, PMOSFET. PFET is in saturation when VSDP is greater than VOVP, that is VGSP minus VTP. तो VSDP क्या है? VDD minus VO, वही मैंने लिखा है यहाँ पर. Okay, then what is the VSDP, sorry, VDD minus VI. This is VDD minus VI, which I wrote here. Okay, now this VDD will cancel. You will be left with VO, take it to the right side, VI minus VTP, take it to the left side. That is, VO should be less than VI plus VTP. So what is the equation for VO equal to VI plus VTP with a mod? What will be the equation? What will be the characteristics? Let's put another line for this. Okay, what is the, let us say, x-intercept for this? VI will be equal to minus VTP, right? So let us say roughly like that one. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you is this. Suppose if I'm drawing like that, this is going to be your, I'll simply put VTP, because VTP is anyway negative, right? So I'll put here VTP. This is VTN. Roughly VTN and VTP are the same. Here I'll do one thing. I'll just put it into some other color. Okay. Okay. What is this line here? This is VO is equal to VI plus VTP. What is the condition? VO has to be less than VI plus VTP. That means every part of this characteristics, DC characteristics, below this point, that means PFET will be in saturation. Okay, so I'll just draw it like that. This part is PFET in saturation. Notice one thing, this is what, this is PFET subthreshold. Subthreshold is an ideal saturation region. So that is also part of PFET saturation. And this part is NFET. I'll write it here, NFET saturation. Okay. So what do we understand is, I'll remove so much. If you notice between this green boundary and the red boundary, what is the condition? That both PFET and NFET are in saturation. Okay, so I'll just so between this range, both PFET and NFET in saturation. Makes sense? Okay. So what does it imply? It implies that when you are switching the transistors, the inverter, okay, you will find that we are encountered several regions of interest. Okay, if we can call this, so this is one point, number one, when Vi equal to Vtn. After that, NFET starts conducting. Okay, so NFET starts conducting in which region? देखो, NFET starts conducting here. That means NFET is in saturation. उसके बाद जैसे ये linear हो रहा है, देख लो ना, all these colors are, all these plots are becoming flat. I mean straight line. I'm sorry. These characteristics are becoming straight lines. But for example, this red color is becoming flat after this point. So from here to there is saturation. Okay, that is the parabolic relation as I have shown here. I have explained earlier. Okay, so NFET in saturation, but there will be a part where both of them are in saturation. But here, beyond this red line, what will happen? It will be in linear. Okay, so this is point number one. This is point number two. In point number two, NFET and PFET both remain in saturation. This is very important. Point number 3. इसको हम क्या कहते हैं? When Vi equal to Vo equal to Vi. VLSI design. Exactly middle of this status.
Switching threshold.
Switching threshold. Excellent. People call it inverter midpoint, inverter threshold, switching threshold, whatever. Okay. This is number 3. Why is this important? We will look into it later. That is also very, very important because the switching threshold will determine the symmetricity of that inverter. Okay. But again, that becomes primarily important mostly for the equivalent inverter. Static CMOS inverter के लिए कोई point नहीं है because VO will be equal to VI. It will be exactly VD by 2. इसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात है? Okay. So what I'm suggesting, you said na, like we will see that switching threshold will shift towards the right, switching threshold will shift towards the left. But if it is a static CMOS inverter, why will it shift towards the right, towards the left? It will shift only for the case of equivalent inverter, as we will see later. So we will define inverter threshold in the next class. अच्छा, उसके बाद से यहाँ पर आ जाएगा red one, number 4. This is the point on the inverter transfer characteristics where NFET moves from saturation to linear. The PFET still continues to be in saturation. Okay. उसके बाद क्या होगा? It will come to this line over here, again blue. This is number 5. When the PFET moves to subthreshold, but again subthreshold is perfect saturation anyway, but anyway PFET will move into subthreshold, okay, and NFET remains in linear. Okay, very nice. So here I have summarized both saturation, so that is the both saturation region, this region, maximum dynamic power consumption. So when we will be studying this for the power consumption in the circuit, so both saturation region means maximum dynamic power consumption and there will be the maximum current flow happening inside the circuit. Okay, because it is switching, right? So in fact, the way I have drawn is not the correct one. I will probably, if I have time on Monday, Ramakant sir, like if you have done a course with him, I don't know, your he teaches the communication students for signals, advanced DSP or something. He is going to have his PhD defense on Monday, so I am a little bit busy. So, but if I have time, I will draw it with exact equations as I've done for the Python codes here. Okay, so in that case, you will find that this drawing is not correct. Ideally, this should go on like this, and it is almost perfectly flat here, and it will come like this. So that means the gain between these two parts where both of them are in saturation, both pFET and FET in saturation, this region, okay, this green will come here, this red will come over here, this will be perfectly, almost like perfect vertical. It means that the gain is how much? Maximum gain. Okay, so what does it imply? You are going to have the maximum current flow, both NFET, PFET or saturation, and the saturation range is given by, जैसे मैंने बताया, VO over here is greater than VI minus VTN. I'm writing it this one over here, first part, and I'm writing this one VI plus VTP over here. Okay, so now to conclude the DC characteristics, what or the transfer characteristics, what we understood, there are two ranges of operation in the static CMOS inverter. Two ranges of operation. What I have shown over here are conditions. Conditions means exact values of VI and VO. Range means, or essentially the region, okay, range or region is basically when, for example, one is the range of the input where the inverter is having a transition. So this is the range. The other range is where the inverter will operate with maximum current consumption. That is a smaller subset of this entire transition. That is between 2 to 4. So if I can say this, the transition range is occurring between 1 to 5. Okay, and saturation range कहाँ से कहाँ तक? 2 to 4. Okay, understood everybody? यहाँ से 1 से 5 तक है transition range, 2 to 4 है saturation range. Now saturation region is the part, saturation range is the part when both the transistors are in saturation, it is going to consume the maximum power. So when we are concerned about reducing the power consumption of the inverter, we should work between 2 to 4. Okay, as I said, this diagram is not correct. The actual one will be, in the actual one, 2 to 4 is almost like a flat, not flat, I should call it perfectly vertical one. It should be a perfect vertical one. That means it is consuming the maximum gain, it is providing maximum gain, it is consuming maximum power. ठीक है, तो power consumption कम करने के लिए we have to work on the saturation region. Okay, very good. That's all for today. In our next lecture, we will understand this one, channel length modulation and its effect on circuits. Then we will understand in the process what is the significance of the second line which I drew, which is the deep saturation region. This is a soft saturation. Deep saturation का concept हम समझेंगे. ठीक है? And that I will be taking on Monday itself. Okay, there is a lab session, right? So on Monday itself, I'll be giving you an introduction of it, and I will be giving one lecture on this because that is an additional lecture which will be really beneficial for you. So I'll be explaining that, and after that, on Wednesdays, I'm planning one full-fledged demonstration on the tools, Cadence, Synopsys, and all those. Okay, so Ramakant will be free of his defense, so he will be giving the demonstration and I will be explaining during the lab session. Okay, I will be explaining why are we doing this, what is the significance of it, what is the internal mechanism by which this Cadence or Synopsys work. All those details I will be explaining. The hands-on demonstration will be done by my PhD scholar, I mean your faculty only, our Ramakant sir, Ramakant Yadav. Okay, that will be on Wednesday. On Monday, 1 to 3 o'clock, between 1 to 2, I will explain this influence of channel length modulation and the understanding of the deep saturation region. And then we will go, and on Tuesday's class, we will begin with noise margin analysis and the engineering techniques to improve the noise margin. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for joining.